So let's talk about spring decor patterns. So welcome back to my vaguely organised craft room. Last week we were taking a look at some knitting and crochet patterns for ideas and inspiration of wearable items for spring, so garments and accessories. This week we're looking at decor items, so things for around and about the home. If you're anything like me, you're a bit of a fan of the idea of decorating by season. I'm not quite there yet. I nearly have my set of spring decorations finished for my little tree, and I'm going to need to get some summer ones and some sort of generic winter ones for when it's not Christmas. But I do like the idea of having items that you can bring out season after season, year after year, so switch things up a little bit around the home throughout the year, so it's not all the same. So let's take a little look at what I've got on the laptop. So as before, these will all be Ravelry patterns. I will link them down below with the name of the pattern designer and the pattern itself, so that you will be able to look up on your preferred browser of choice, preferred search engine of choice, to find similar patterns or the actual pattern that I'm referencing on the site that you prefer to get your patterns from. So I've got 4 sections to look at this time round. They're all, as I say, household decor type items. So let's start with your standards. Let's start with some blankets. So these are obviously the largest projects that I've got on my list, and my little tab grouping. I'm so impressed that I've worked out how to do this. If you don't know how to group your tabs in Chrome, I'm sure it's the same in other browsers as well, you just right click on the tab and you can add them in, they can add new groups that way and group things together. So if I right click on this one, I can put a new tab in, I can add it to a reading and add it to a group, so I can add it to a different group. I can create a new group, so you can shuffle things around. It's kind of handy if you're researching things and looking things up and not wanting to have 1,000,001 tabs open at the time, because you can close each group down by clicking on it, so that's kind of handy. So, IT brief lesson over. I'm sure youngsters already knew how to do that, but it was new to me. So let's start with a DK weight crochet project. This is the Spring Garden Hexie blanket. I mean, obviously any Hexie blanket pattern would work in spring colours. The good thing about block patterns for blankets is you're working on a smaller item at a time and then joining them together. So if you time it right, you're doing your small things in the warmer weather, joining it together in the colder weather, and having it ready for the next season. So for those of you Antipodeans watching, you're probably just about able to get something like this done in time for your spring. For those of us in the Northern Hemisphere who are still waiting for warmer weather, we can make a start on it now. It might not be ready for next year or the year after, blankets being what they are. But you never know, by the winter, by the autumn, when it starts to cool down again, things might be at a point where you can join them together, and then your project keeps you warm at the same time. We like blankets for that reason. So this pattern is by In the Yarn Garden. It's a hexagon pattern. It's got these little lacy patterns into the hexagons themselves. So here we have a picture of a completed project. So this isn't the hugest of blankets in the pattern picture, but because it's hexagons, you can just make more of them and add to it and make it bigger. That wouldn't be an issue at all. I think that's probably baby pattern sized. It's a free pattern, which is always a plus. Let's have a look at some of these projects that go with it. So we've got people who've done the pattern size, we've got people who've done larger, so there's obviously more hexagons in Daisy 1808's version of it, and more in Charlie Wiles as well. I like the way she's done the gradient there, actually. That's I'm assuming it's a she, that's a bit bad of me, isn't it? I'm liking the gradient that they have produced for their hexagon blanket. It's quite a few different variations of colour schemes, different sizes. That's a good idea, plotting out your colours. That's Moonbound has plotted out her colours. Judging by the photo, it's a her. Plotting out her colours with a little sketch there. Little Miss Moffat used it as a baby blanket. Great choice of photo, that, because it's obscuring the baby's face, which is good for the baby's privacy. So lots of variety there. So it's not the newest of patterns. The most recent finishes that we've got in the project pages are 2023. But that doesn't mean people aren't working on it at the moment, because like I say, blankets, they can take years. So yes, I think that'd be a nice, cute, cosy project to work on through the spring into the summer and put together in the autumn and winter, ready for next spring to drape over your sofa or armchair, or if you're lucky enough to have a conservatory. I'm not, but if you are, then this would look good in a conservatory as well for those cooler spring evenings. The next pattern that I've got to show you is another hexagon pattern. So this is the Succulent Spring Hexagon Afghan. So Afghan is not really a term that's used very much in the UK. I believe it's more common in the US, possibly Canada as well, but we don't really use it. We just say blanket over here, or throw. Judging by the name, Jennifer Renaud, I wonder if they're Canadian, I don't know. But that sounds like a kind of French origin name. Anywho, speculation aside, this is another Hexie blanket, so it's another one that can be made in pieces. It is another crochet one. I like her cool colour palette there. Again, we've got some lacy details around the hexagon, but the interior is a bit more solid, a bit more variation going on. That's a really subtle colour scheme. I do like that choice of the white with the sagey, bluey, greeny colour in the middle. There's a few projects here as well, so it's your other colourways people have chosen for this Aran weight project, although obviously blankets, you can do them any weight you like. That's nice in the yellows and the creams. So again, you're going to be able to do any size you like because it's a hexagon, it's a modular blanket, so you can easily extend. So that's a closer look at the hexagons themselves. They're a decent size hexagon. Bit of variation going on in the patterning. So yeah, again, one you can work on during the spring and summer, ready to put together in the winter. Lovely tassel details on the end of this one as well. So yeah, crochet, customizable, Aran weight, should work up relatively quickly. There is a free version available. That'll be on like a blog post with ads in and what have you. The purchase pattern is down as $4, so yeah, that's not bad. So to get it without the adverts, $4 is probably what, £2-3, something like that. But, yeah, too expensive for a blanket. Very cheap for a blanket pattern. So yeah, $3.22 is the conversion that Ravelry is giving it to pounds. So yeah, nice, light and airy kind of a blanket, ready to throw over your sofa, your armchairs, or even use in the garden in the spring evenings. Third blanket is a squares blanket, so a spring flower granny square by Crossmanknits. I do tend to lean more towards crochet blankets than knitting blankets. Now crochet does use more yarn, I believe, than knitting. It certainly feels that way, but it also seems to work up quicker. So for blankets it's good, particularly when you're doing it in pieces like this. So this is again squares made up and then joined together later. So another one portable for your summer travels. So $3 or £2.41 for the paid version, but also available as a blog on a website. So 10.5 centimetre squares. The designer has used cotton yarn in her version, or their version rather, and they've also done a cushion version, which I think is lovely. So you could do matching throw and cushions. So give you a sense of some other colour ways. Let's have a look at the project. So we've got a nice classic one with the black border. Quite often see granny blankets with the black joining. Carla Crochet's taken the squares and turned it into a bag. So again, handy, accessible accessory is the word I'm thinking of. Words are hard sometimes. And so she turned it into a bag, so that's a handy version, and a bit more of a pared back colourway here from Fuzzy Bluefish. So yeah, I'm liking that one a lot because it's bright and cheerful. That would be good for scrap busting as well, with it being based on a granny square. So you're going to be doing several different rounds, and you can do each round in different colours, as is done in the example here on the pattern page. So yeah, bust your stash at the same time as creating something cute for your house. This pattern, the Sweet Flowers blanket by Sweet Crocheterie, The pattern page doesn't give you like an overall view of the blanket itself. This is they're saying that it's free to, feel free to sell anything you make using the pattern, so that's very generous of this designer. So paid for pattern, $7 Canadian, so under £4. It is a crochet project, and it's this very cute 3D floral motif. This is what will grab my attention, the 3D nature of it. I do like a textured blanket. There's something about it for me, sensory thing, I guess. I would have liked to have seen the pattern page feature the blanket draped over something so you could see it more open. There are only a few projects there, and only one of them is pictures, and it's not complete. So they've not done it as a blanket, they've done it as bookmarks. So yeah, a little bit of a shame that you can't see the blanket in its entirety. But the close-up pictures of the textured pattern, the textured stitch, does give you a sense of what the blanket would turn out like. I imagine it's also be quite easy to expand it to a larger blanket or a smaller blanket than is listed in the pattern. So they've done it as a baby blanket size. But yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to adjust the size, I would have thought. And again, you could turn that into cushion covers as well. My final blanket is this corner-to-corner picture blanket of a spring daffodil. There were a few similar patterns with different flowers on, but the daffodils are coming up in my garden, so we went with that. Again, it's crochet. It's a DK weight project. Again, it's quite cheap for a blanket project. It's not available for sale through Ravelry. The pattern is being sold on Etsy for $4.99, which I guess is the American dollars. Part of the Spring Blossoms series. So there are others available, and she does have a website as well. So if I remember, I will put her website in the notes down below, as she's listed it in the details of this particular blanket, because that will be handy for those of you that are interested in doing this style of a blanket but maybe don't use Ravelry. So yeah, so that's my blanket pattern ideas. There's no projects on here, which, given that she's not selling it, well, Heidi Filbert is the name, so yeah, it's a she. And given she's not selling it through Ravelry, it's not a huge surprise that there's not any projects listed on here. If people are buying the pattern through Etsy, then they're probably sharing things elsewhere. So let's close down the blanket section and move on to some companion pieces for blankets, which would be the cushions, or pillows, as I believe the Americans call them. Pillows go on your bed. They're cushions if they're on sofas and armchairs. I know it's a distinction without much of a difference, but hey, it took me a while to get my head around Americans calling cushions pillows, because they are such a specific thing in the UK. Now, the first one that we're going to look at that grabbed my eye is this rather open, lacy design. Again, it's crochet. That's going to be a theme for crochets today. Spring Blossoms Pillow by Jennifer E. Ryan. So this is a hexagonal shaped cushion. Now, I am guessing that you'd be using a round cushion pad, but I am very much guessing there. Doesn't specify in the notes. This was published in Crochet World magazine, so it's not available on Ravelry, so you'd have to look it up through the magazine, look at the back issues, but the dates are listed, so April 2016 and Spring 2017. But as I said, these patterns are very much for ideas, for inspiration, not necessarily me recommending the individual patterns, because I haven't made them up myself. Again, there's no projects listed, but as I say, that's not a surprise when it's not a pattern that's not for sale on Ravelry. But yeah, just grabbed my attention. I think it was the shape of the cushion that really caught my eye. So it's open. There must be a fabric cover over the cushion on the inside, because that's not the colour I normally see cushion inserts in. But yeah, very interesting design. And I can see having a couple of those on a conservatory chair. Not that I have a conservatory, but we can dream. Or on your sofa for the spring would be a nice little touch. My second cushion pattern for you is clearly an American designer, or at least somebody who uses American English. Spring Whispers Pillow by Tatsiana. That's Lilla Bjorn. So yeah, not American, but uses a lot of American English, which makes sense, because It seems to have taken over a lot of places. So this is quite an intricate design. Lilla Bjorn does a lot of these overlay crochet. I think it's called overlay crochet. It's not a technique I've tried, but she does a lot of this sort of style of crochet where you've got I think they're front post stitches creating the motif on top of things. So there is an intricacy to her design, and I keep meaning to make one. I just haven't got around to it. Maybe this will be the year. I think somebody here might be planning a blanket with that number. One in multiple colours. So yeah, there's definitely an intricacy to Tatsiana's designs. I've got a few projects listed as well, so I'll look at some different colourways for you. That's been integrated into a blanket there by the look of it, in a couple of different places. So this particular project has the motif integrated into a blanket, but also the cushion cover that uses like a footstool cover by the look of it. So that's interesting. It's interesting that a lot of these projects, they've taken the motif and used it in a blanket. So they've got some notes here on this person's. So let's have a look at their notes. So Spring Whispers blanket. So that's the Spring Whispers motif in the middle. So it's in the notes of the pillow pattern, which takes you to Lilla Bjorn's blog. So it's a combination of two of her projects. That's interesting. So you've got the two separate motifs being joined together. So it's interesting when you look into the project pages, you can get some ideas of how to use patterns in ways other than they were initially intended. We've got a few of them actually made as cushions as well. So yeah, see what I mean by getting inspiration from patterns rather than necessarily the pattern itself. And my last cushion pattern for you is the Wheel of Spring pillows. This is a round cushion. You can get round cushion inserts. Again, we're talking crochet. This one is available on Ravelry. Quite a good discount structure there. So you've got multiple patterns from the same designer, who is Liudmyla Hefny. Oh, I so hope I'm saying that name correctly. So yeah, so the Wheel of Spring, round cushion, textured cushion. Oh, being used as a bauble there. Look at the motifs from the pattern. That's a very big bauble. So yeah, a bit of texture on the pattern there. Some of this looks like it's knitted, but it's crochet, which I think is amazing. I know Tunisian crochet has stitches that look like knit stitches, but standard crochet, I haven't seen it. It's got it looks like wheat sheaves coming into petals in the pattern there. Multiple colours. Oh, that's a multicoloured yarn by the look of it. Yeah, multicoloured yarn being used. So that's turned out quite nicely in that as well. Yeah, interesting pattern, that one. I think some of those may... they're not... Most of them aren't the same pictures as on the pattern page. A bit of variety of colourways on the pattern page, which is nice. It's helpful to give you some ideas of how you might want to work the project up yourself. Okay, so that's my big cushions and blankets section dealt with. Now we're going to get on to a little bit more whimsy. So we look at Decor and Amigurumi. So we're going to start with the Amigurumi, and then we'll come on to more sort of general decor type stuff. Okay, so for Amigurumi, so obviously these will all be crochet. Let me just have a quick double check. Yeah, we're definitely crochet leaning today. Okay, so first Amigurumi project is some spring bunnies. These are chunky bunnies. This is a new pattern. It's only come out this month. It's a DK pattern. And yeah, they're adorable. Little crocheted pom-pom tail as well. It's not a pom-pom, it's actually a crochet ball. See, I'm quite fond of these guys because they've got a bit of chunk to them. So they'd be good if you've got if you want to gift a toy to a child, but they'd also be rather cute and whimsical, sat on a shelf as a bit of decor. This is Elisa Sartori. I'm not familiar with her patterns. She does have an Etsy store, so she'll sell stuff there as well as through Ravelry. So if you are somebody who doesn't use Ravelry, you've got that option. Next amigurumi pattern, spring chickens, because of course. But these are chickens in Easter eggs. So again, we're talking crochet because it's amigurumi, that tends to be crochet. And they are so cute. Just very kawaii type chickens in their little coloured Easter eggs. So this would be actually quite good for busting some stash. It's a 4-ply fingering weight pattern. So yeah, if somebody else has worked them up in more moody colours. So yeah, they are very cute. It would be good for, again, gifts for children. You could use them as an alternative to Easter egg hunts if somebody didn't want chocolate around. So yeah, very, very cute. Again, Olga, Chemerys, I'm not familiar with their patterns. Again, it's quite a new pattern. January 2025 this one was published. And so it should be fairly up to date, fairly modern in style of writing, I would imagine, if it's that new of a pattern. Some more spring chicks these times. This time the colours that the designer has chosen are the Easter egg colours rather than them being sat in eggs themselves. It's very cute, the ones with the little glasses on. So this is an older pattern. This is by Lauren Espy and was published in a menagerie of stitches. This was published March 2020, so it is a few years old now. So we've got 126 projects on Ravelry for it. So yeah, people have had a fair amount of success by the look of things of making these little ones, and somebody has worked up some little eggshells to sit their chicks in. So yeah, again, good for decor, good for gifts for kids if you don't want to be giving them chocolate or sweets or whatever. It's a good choice for somebody else's children, I find, is to give them something that isn't chocolates and sweets and stuff, because you're never really too sure about somebody else's choices for how they want to feed their children and give them treats. So sometimes it's worth steering clear, particularly at times of year like Easter when sweet stuff is all around. So I've done that for my nieces before. I've given them toys instead of chocolate at Easter. Like toys I've made, not just shop bought toys. So rabbits and chicks and things. Then next, my penultimate amigurumi to show you is the Spring Flower Bulb Doll. So less Easter related, but it's very much spring. This is a March 2019 publication designed by Craftsy Amore. So again, crochet, amigurumi. So we've got this little cute teacup-sized bulb with flowers growing out of their head. So these lovely purple flowers here, and this version has like a daisy growing out of the top. So very cute, very whimsical. It has 11 projects. I would have thought this would have had more projects, to be fair, because it is so adorable. And so not specific to one weekend. So this would make good spring decor for the whole season. So yeah, very cutesy, very whimsical. Like it a lot. Will I get round to making one? Who knows? Probably not this year. But you never know. I might get round to it one day. And my last amigurumi for this week's video, before I go on to the decor items, I put it as amigurumi because it's a stuffed creation thing. But it is very much a crossover project into the more sort of decor related items, and that is the Spring Fairy House by Allison Hoffman. It's a May 2013 pattern, so it is definitely an older pattern. It just sort of felt more like it was structured like an amigurumi than some of the decor ones, which is why it's in this section. There are a few projects listed. It's not quite 60, but almost. You can idea of a few different colourways for the project. So yeah, I think this will be a nice little background. Again, whole spring season. If you are somebody into sort of mushrooms and fairy core and goblin core and all that kind of thing, it might be the sort of thing you'd want out all the time. So that's my amigurumi suggestions. So the more sort of the decor items that I couldn't think of a better specific category to put them in are under my decor section. So we've got 4 patterns here. First one being the Spring Snowflake Mini Doily. Oh, words. Spring Snowflake Mini Doily by Farfield Crafts, and this is a free pattern on Ravelry. I don't know if it's available anywhere else, but that'd be certainly worth a look. Now, this is one of these patterns that I suspect the colourway is going to make a massive difference as to how it looks. So in this colourway, it looks very spring, very floral. When you look at it in the single colours, it's a little bit more all season, and the white may be a little bit more Christmassy. The red may be a little bit more Christmassy, but yeah, a solid colour makes it a little bit more sort of all season, so you can leave it out all year round. Doing it in these sort of springy colours, you could tie it in with your other spring decorations and theme the space. Thinking back actually to my cushion patterns, to that first cushion pattern, the Spring Blossoms pillow, you could take a pattern like this, the doily patterns, and use them as cushion fronts with a bit of fabric backing. So you've got a few projects with pictures, you get a sense of some other colourways there. But yeah, I've never made a doily. That might need to go on my list of things to do. The second decor pattern I have for you is the Spring Charm set. So this is a selection of knitted items that have been turned into effectively bunting. So this is a Susan B. Anderson pattern, so we know it's going to be good because it's Susan B. Anderson. We're looking at finger weight 4-ply yarn, and you've got a mixture of different things to make as part of the project. So there's bunnies, there's chicks, there's flowers, there's carrots, and then you string them all together like bunting. So yeah, very, very sweet. Very sort of Eastery, but spring leaning rather than to sort of have some chocolate kind of thing. But, yeah, so very, very cute. And you could do them as individual items as well. You wouldn't have to necessarily string them together as the bunting. People have hung them on their walls quite nicely. People are using them as little organised groupings. So yeah, there's a bit of flexibility there. Again, the individual items would be quite good for kiddies. I just like the idea of having plushy type bunting rather than your normal banners and pennants. So yeah, there's quite a few projects available for you to have a little flick through if you're undecided from Susan's page itself as to whether or not you want to make the bunting for spring. So my next project is a return to crochet. This is a 2023 pattern, so it has been out a little while. There's only a few projects listed though. This is a mandala project, so it's Sunnet Spring Mandala by Kim Bucker. I'm assuming that she's pronounced Bucker. It's a Dutch designer, so the information is in Dutch first and then English underneath. But yeah, this is a rather sweet, rather pretty mandala project. I've not worked a mandala myself. It's on my list of things to do along with doilies. But this does strike me as something that could be an all year round kind of a project in terms of having it up as decor rather than specifically spring, depending on your colour choices. So one of the examples given on the pattern page is this daisy effect. That's leaning very spring to me. Whereas if you chose a different colour palette, so something that more in keeping with the all year round decor of your room, then that's going to be able to stay up all year round. So a bit of versatility there. I think it's a very pretty pattern. And yeah, I can see me at some point doing a mandala for decoration. So you've got a bit of information and examples of variations of attaching it to the hoop as well. So it looks like there's options available. So yeah, rather sweet little pattern. This is in Scapius. I will one day master the pronunciation of that word. Dutch word. I don't speak Dutch, so we're working on it. To give you a bit of an idea of colourways for this project and the impact that changing the colour can have, we've got a few projects with a couple of different colours in the same project, giving one effect. And you can see how this particular version of the mandala ties in with the decor of where it's hanging. And this one is a much sort of brighter colour story. And then the single colours as well, looking rather fabulous. I do like this orange to yellow one. Not sure where we put it in my house, possibly in the living room when we finish decorating, but might need to convince the husband for that one. So that's my penultimate decor pattern my penultimate pattern for today. So let's take a look at the last one. So this is the Spring Wreath by Kate Eastwood. So this was originally part of the Simply Crochet issue 78, but is now available as a Ravelry download for the one wreath for £3.50, or there is a little booklet for £10 which has 4 patterns in it. So I picked this wreath in particular. There were quite a few sort of spring Eastery wreaths on Ravelry as I was browsing through, but this one felt kind of all season long rather than specifically Easter weekend, which seemed to me to be a better option if you're going to put that amount of effort in. You don't want to take it down after just a weekend, but there are, as I say, a variety of wreaths available. Some, like this one on wicker wreaths, where you add the motifs, the elements to it. Others where the actual wreath bit itself has been knit or crocheted, and this would work for knitting or for crochet. And this pattern happens to be crochet, so that's the spring version of the wreath. Nice and floral, very pretty, very spring. As I say, could stay up all season long. And for those of you who, like me, like the idea of changing decor by the season, the 4 pattern booklet that is a Ravelry download for £10 includes the autumn wreath, which has mushrooms and autumnal coloured leaves all around it. It also has the summer wreath. I'm not brilliant on flowers. I do recognise poppies. We've got some form of daisy there. The blue ones look to me like cornflowers, which is my school colour, so that is one that I do recognise. Are these other ones catkins? Is that what they're called? Summer flowers, anyway, on the same wreath type of base. And the 4th one in the pattern is this winter wreath with holly and ivy and a couple of robins perched on it. So yeah, rather sweet, rather lovely little wreath set. So if you wanted decorations for all year round but wanted to change them out for the season, that's certainly an option for you. Or you could just go for a spring Eastery theme to a wreath. So you could take a pattern that already exists as a wreath pattern, or you could take a selection of smaller motif patterns and combine them together how you wanted. So yeah, nice and flexible, nice and versatile. So yeah, that would be quite a joyous little pattern for our final spring decor pattern idea this week. So there we have it. There's all my spring decor inspiration patterns to be either working on through spring or making up to use as decor around the home for spring, alongside all of those wearable ones that we looked at last week. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Until then, there is this one here that may be of interest to you, and I will see you soon. But until then, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.